The building was built in 1908 by Charles Humphrey for his business, which then was the Poultney Journal, a weekly newspaper, and the Journal Press, which is a small job shop that went hand in hand with the newspaper. The building housed a number of different businesses. The Journal Press had just one room, big room on the second floor, and a third of the basement where the presses were. And they built an elevator from the basement to the second floor to the basement, so they could lock up the forms for the newspaper, run them down the elevator, produce the paper there, run them back up, and then reset. It was all hand type at that time, so it was a lot of labor. The building had a post office, a pharmacy, a jeweler, dentist, a barber, and then a community center on the third floor.
My name's Dick Weiss, and I'm a painter, and I've been in this Journal Press building, had the space as my studio, 2008, and I'm also involved with developing a community art center.
In 1970, there was the newspaper folded during the Depression in the 1930s, early 1930s, 31, 32. The printing business stayed functioning as a small job shop. And my grandfather was the manager of the building and the manager of the printing business from the time of the opening in 1908. And then my father learned the printing business, and we moved from Rutland to Burlington to Hanover and then back to Poultney. My father and mother bought the business, printing business. And I went to UVM and then came back and went into business. Katie and I went into business with my parents. And then we bought the business from my parents in 1972 and bought the building 3 months later in 1972. And we grew the printing business to a four-color business, doing a lot of college, educational printing, recreational, and financial printing.
And when I moved to Poultney, this building was being used entirely as a printing operation. It printed a lot of stuff for Green Mountain College and clients throughout the Northeast. But the digital revolution took over the printing business. So what we ended up with was a building that was gradually becoming emptied as they moved the printing equipment out. And I discovered this beautiful space to use as a studio. So when I moved in 2008, there were very few people that were actually working in this building. But what was really neat about it was sort of bringing it back to community use. Because originally when the building was built in 1908, it partially functioned as a community center.
How long have you been in Poultney?
I was born in Poultney. In 1995, I started living up here again.
When did you get involved with the art, the Stone Valley?
Yeah, at the beginning, Chuck gave us the opportunity for rent-free, the third floor, which was a wonderful offer. And if it hadn't been for that, nothing would have happened.
2006, and in 2009, the gentleman who bought it went bankrupt. So we had, the building is 20,000 square feet. We had about 16,000 square feet with no rentals. We had about 3 rentals at that time. So we were trying to figure out what we could do with the building, and as Kate said, we decided to put it back like it was, and we opened the Poultney Small Business Center. And there are 30 rooms in the building, and we rented them out individually to small businesses at reduced rent for the first few years until they got started. And it took us about pretty close to 2 years to fill it. And now it's the last 4 or 5 years it's been full, and the rents have been increasing. So that it's been good financially, as well as we think it's a great thing for the community because there are 14 businesses in there. And I think what made that building possible to expand was PDRC, Poultney Downtown Revitalization Committee. got organized about 11 years ago. And then before we got organized, the town did not have streetlights, with the exception of the high ones that were on the poles. So we put in new sidewalks, new curbing, and new streetlights that were pedestrian friendly. And just before we did that, there were 7 vacant storefronts in the community. And within a year and a half, every storefront was full, and they stayed full since then. So there's been a dramatic change in the community since we made those improvements. And then we planted the flowers and so forth. So, and I think that's what made the possibility of that building coming back to life.
I served as the president for the first year. Dick Weiss was the vice president. Dick did the heavy lifting. He commandeered the 501c3, which is the game changer. He spent months working on that with help from a couple of different lawyers, and we did have some legal help. Tracy Karras gave us legal help, and Dick had a couple of other people, and we sort of struggled through. We had not a lot of participation, and not a lot of people knew what we were doing. We haven't been very clever with social media and websites and Facebook and all that, and that's going to change.
Okay, you said something